Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be showing off the Stellaris Nexus pre-alpha demo that's been available during, I think it's called Game Fest on Steam. Today is the last day it's available, unfortunately. I was too busy this week to get a nice video out. Um, and so instead of playing while I record, this time I have recorded a game from yesterday and I'm going to talk through it. I'm going to talk about the very basics of the game for new players because by the time a lot of people are watching this, the demo won't be available. So I want to give an idea of how the game plays, even for people who haven't played it. But I'm also going to talk about the strategy a lot. So even if you've played a ton of the Stellaris Nexus demo this past week, I'm hoping that some of what I discuss about why I make one decision or another is interesting and useful. And obviously, maybe at the point you're watching this, the demo is no longer available. But of course, this game will be coming out at some point, and hopefully, this is just interesting insight. Now, one thing to note about everything that's going to be going on here is all of this is a pre-alpha build, right? As the developers have stated. So um, any or all of this is subject to eventual change as they continue to fine tune things and refine the game into the best thing it can be. But I'm just going to be talking about how the game currently is during this demo period, and yeah, I imagine at least the core will remain the same for the eventual release. So first, let me give an idea of the UI. Again, if the demo is no longer available, I just want to make sure everyone understands what all the resources are because they can't just jump into the demo anymore um, to figure out what they are. So there's a bunch of things going on the screen. At the end of the day, Stellaris Nexus is a 4X strategy game. I would say with, at least from my perspective, a multiplayer focus, and that the multiplayer is really where this game shines for me. Um, though the demo doesn't have like a story or anything yet, so maybe that will be one thing that improves in the final release. Um, and it's crammed into about an hour, which is pretty unusual for a 4X, and one of the things I love about it, because I just don't have the time to play a lot of the 4Xs I really enjoy. And basically the goal of the game is to get to 100 succession points. And the way you play a turn is very much centered around these what we call edicts. They're basically cards, and you can play the edicts by paying support, and basically support is like action cost. If you've ever played a game with action costs like XCOM or something where you have to pay actions to do things, basically have a limited number of actions. And your first action is usually going to cost you 1 support. Your second will usually cost you 2 support. Third will cost you 3 support, etc. And you can have, I believe, up to 50 support. The second thing you'll see on the bottom bar, the yellow gear, is material, which is basically just a resource you can spend to buy things. And then this last one, I don't remember what it's called exactly. Credits, I think. And credits are basically a wild resource. You can spend them 1-to-1 as material when you need to build things, or you can spend 2-to-1 as support if you want to take extra actions. So it's sort of a wild resource that's very useful and harder to obtain. Um, the next thing is a unique resource that's going to be faction specific. For this faction, which is the Kel-Azaan, they're sort of the warlike focused faction, and so they get what's called bloodlust. And so every time they get in a fight, they gain 2 bloodlust, and that can either be spent on certain cards like training. You see here it has a bloodlust cost that is red because I have 0 bloodlust. But if you just hold on to it, then it actually gives all your fleets +1 battle strength, which is very useful. +1% battle strength, which is very useful. The next set of resources, there's munitions, which are used to build fleets. Basically, every time you build a fleet, the left-hand number fills up, and once you hit your cap on the right-hand side, you can't make any more. Science works similarly. It's this little beaker icon. Now you can build buildings to increase that, but science actually just steadily increases over time. Whenever you research a tech, it takes up a certain number of science. If you don't have any science left, you can't research tech. Trade is how many credits you get when you play the trade edict. I'll go over that a little more later. Then there's culture, the amount of planets you've got your culture on, which I'll also describe later, votes, and army strength. I think since all 4 of those are related to other systems, I will describe them as they come up. So the construction edict does what you would expect. It lets you build things. Training, I'll go over when I can actually play it. So let me go back for just 1 sec though. You'll notice that I do something here. So I have some fleets in orbit around my home planet, Sorry, this beginning portion is going to be paused for a while as I explain some basic things, but I'm going to start skipping parts of the video later on when I hit end turn and I'm just waiting for other players. So I have some fleets, and if they're the same type, I can combine them. I also have a space station. This defends my planet. It also lets me build new fleets there. So you start with one of those in orbit of your home planet. I like to have one fleet that wins in a dominating fashion so that it doesn't take too many injuries and can start fighting early. So every faction has what's called, I think, an agenda is their name. And basically, it's a goal that gives you experience points as you achieve it. And it's related to the focus of the faction. For this guy, his agenda is to fight a space battle, and every time he fights a space battle, he gets 20 XP, which will fill up a bar here and let him gain level up rewards. So that's one of the reasons I go for this slightly defended planet instead of the undefended planet with my much larger fleet. Now you'll notice it has one stat when you're looking like this, and that's because it's averaging its strength and its defense. You'll notice just a second ago, though, when I was actually hovered over to it, the numbers split into two, and that's because there's damage you're dealing and also your health. If you're zoomed out enough or you're not paying attention to it, it just takes their average to give you a rough idea how strong it is. But when you look closer, you'll notice it has both 30 strength and 30 defense. So construction is to build, and of course, as in many, turn-based strategy games, it's important to build up an economy. Each building has a limit of what types of planets you can build it on, and so I start with I think they're called rich planets, which is the orange hammer, and so I'm going to build a mining complex because they're cheap and they give me more resources. Politics is a wild edict, so basically it costs extra support, but it lets you play any other edict. I'm not going to go over all these now, but I basically check it out and realize I'm just not going to have the support for that. Notice I also had to pay support to move my fleet, so that's put me a bit down on support. I paid 1 for construction, 2 to move my fleet, which will arrive at their destination next turn. So one of the reasons this game plays so fast is because it's simultaneous turns. So notice I've given the order to move, but that's not actually going to happen until everybody ends their turn. So what's my strategy when I see a board like this? So this is going on to sort of like higher level stuff for more experienced players, is what am I thinking when I look at this situation? Well, I'm thinking I want to take the least defended planet with my sort of weak fleet. It's obviously stronger than the opposition, but actually this fleet right here, you'll notice there's sort of this is a raider. So this little icon shows you what type of ship it is. The fleet is a destroyer fleet, but destroyers are one of the many types of raider. And basically, raiders can move 2 spaces instead of 1, but there's a rock, paper, scissors mechanic of raiders losing to having disadvantage against capital ships having disadvantage against ranged, and ranged having disadvantage against raiders. When you fight a fleet that you have a disadvantage against, you do half damage to them. So even though I maybe can kill this fleet, it's going to be closer than it looks. So I'd rather not lose too many of these ships fighting this. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to build another fleet to take care of that. Because I can move 2 at a time, though, I can probably take this planet and then this planet with this fleet at some point. So basically, I'm thinking of getting into a lot of fights to level up my character by gaining XP from fighting in space battles. And what I really want to do is I know there's a really good level 2 reward. So someone asking me to end turn, please. But I'm still thinking. First turn is longer than any of the others, so I take my time trying to plan out the next turn so I don't feel rushed on future turns. So yeah, that's sort of my game plan, is start taking those planets and getting in fights that I know I can win along the way. An important thing about taking planets is that the important part about taking planets is it opens up build slots. Every planet has limited build slots, and so you want to take more planets so that you have more places to build. So here I play the Research Edict, and the Research Edict is going to give you 3 options of types of tech. Now I believe there's 4 options for each level, for each type, and you're going to get a random 2 of them, unless you're the tech-focused faction, in which case you get more options, which is the Vor. You'll notice them played by Slippy down here. And so looking at these, they sort of tell you what they specialize in. Physics is science and damage focused. Nanotech is defense, material, and munitions focused. Social will help you with army strength, support, culture, and getting, that's the symbol for points. So here I noticed that mining drones is available. I started with a rich planet, and this has a great building for rich planets that costs 12 material, but gives you 2 income instead of 1. So it makes your build slots on rich planets much more efficient. It also gives you a command for a fleet that again helps you generate money, but I'll talk about that later when it actually matters. So you can also notice I just undid because I wanted to double check what my other options are going to be. So when I research this mining drones tech, next time I play research, nanotech will offer me a level 2 tech up to level 8. But the social and physics techs won't change. So what I realized is even though I know I want mining drones, I want to double check what the other techs I can expect to get are for physics level 1 and social because I didn't consider it strongly enough. Okay, so here I'm checking if I can build a new fleet to take on the capital ships to my right, and decided that I can. I also just played trade, which is how you get, you can basically play it on other empires or neutral planets, and you use it to get credits. So I am suffering from, I have a lot of support, but I don't have many materials, and so I'm basically trying to, I play the card for support, but I'm going to get 5 credits for it. You can see pending trade convoys over to the right. When you trade with a neutral planet, you get trade value, you get credits equal to your trade value, which is 5, as you can see on the bottom bar. And basically, if you trade with another player, it sums your trade value, and as soon as they play a trade back to you, you both get things equal to that, equal to the sum of your trade values. So I want to highlight this. So I win this fight, and I skip it because I like to play faster. Now here, you'll notice an army strength icon and a ship icon. So these are some things that may have been mystifying to even people who've played a little bit of the demo, is exactly how do these work? Well, a planet will have an army strength, here it's 2, and you need to sacrifice a number of ships equal to the army strength of the planet, -1 for each 10 army strength you have from your faction. So if you look at the bottom bar that I have, it shows I have 10 army strength, and this planet has 2 army strength on it. So I'm going to have to sacrifice 2 minus 10 divided by 10 rounded down. So I'm going to have to sacrifice 1 ship to take this planet, and that's what the right thing is indicating. It's saying I need to sacrifice 1 of my 5 healthy ships. You'll also notice that there's 6 little dots above my ship. That means there are 6 ships in the fleet, but one of them is sort of grayed out, and that's because that ship is injured. Whenever you get into a fight and lose ships from a fleet, you can have at most 10 in the fleet, and whenever one takes damage, it either dies or is injured, and then will get repaired as they idle over a friendly planet. So I sacrifice a ship to take this planet, and I give it +1 repair speed. That little wrench icon both lets them repair an extra ship every turn, but also lets them reinforce more ships every turn. So once you build a fleet to get more ships in that fleet, you can, as long as they're on a friendly planet, you can spend your turn adding ships to the fleet equal to their basically repair value. I've also started building a capital ship fleet. That's because for Kel-Azaan they have I think they're called like boarding ships or armored carriers. So yeah, the armored troop carriers are particularly good at taking planets. They're also going to let me fight that other capital ship fleet because I won't be at disadvantage. You'll see there's this Edict Rally I haven't played. I will never play that all game. I think it's underpowered. It costs 3 Bloodlust, and I'll talk about it a little more later when I have time, but because I'm never going to play it, it's not that important. So I played a edict called Command, so I do things a little bit fast, so occasionally I'm going to hop back just to show exactly what I did in a spot that I think is relevant. And so I played an edict called Command to the Armored Troop Carrier, and then I pick one of a set of options of buffs, basically. You can only have one of these buffs active on each of your fleets at any given time, and the only way to switch them or put them onto a fleet with no command is to play the Command Edict. There is usually a command specific to a fleet, like the repair one was the unique one for destroyers that I gave to my other fleet, and the unique one for armored troop carriers is that invading planets does not cost an action. So invading planets not only costs me a ship, but it costs me supporters. Basically, this means there's no supporter cost. Something with no supporter cost is better than you might think, because let's say you take 3 actions in a turn, that would cost you 6 support, 1 plus 2 plus 3. But let's say you had a free action somewhere in there, like the armored troop carrier. That doesn't save you 1 support. It saves you 3 support because the free action doesn't increase the cost of any of your other actions either. So even if it's the first thing you do, the next action you do will still only cost you 1, and the subsequent one will cost you 2. So basically, it actually saves you a number of support equal to the number of actions you took in the turn, and it can really save you a huge amount of support. So I'm going to put on armored troop carrier to spend some support now to save support later. You'll also notice there's another command here. I got that command from the tech that gave me, it's like the advanced mining one that let me build better buildings on my rich planets for material production. This basically lets my ships produce if they're not surrounding a planet, and they'd get +2 if they're just not surrounding a planet, and +3 if they're around a black hole or some other hazard. Okay, so I pick armored troop carrier though, because right now I'm looking to fight. I decided to take out this fleet with my armored troop. I guess I was thinking I might want to take out this fleet with the armored troop carrier because of the disadvantage. I decide instead I'm going to spend time reinforcing it. So here I'm just ramping, just using construction. And now I'm checking, can I reinforce this fleet? And I really don't have enough money. So I'm going to wait to another turn, and I'm sort of on the fence. Do I want to fight this with a fleet that has advantage against it? Because they probably won't take any damage and they'll kill both those ships. I decide that I'm more interested in reinforcing it so it can take the other rich planet. Now that I have that advanced mining tech, and used my politics or wild edict to get another construction, I believe I've filled up the build slots on Azak. And so I need another rich planet if I want to keep building my best building. I'm hoping that at some point in the near future, I can research into something that gives me a better building for populous planets, which are those ones with the blue people icons. And so I don't really want to waste the build slots. Okay, so I hadn't filled up Azak, but I knew I was going to fill it up very soon. So that's why I waited, and as I thought, I'm going to fill it up now. So I've played a Culture Edict, and I guess I've done this twice at this point. This is my second Culture Edict, and I think I can finally explain a little bit about what it does. So Culture Edicts, they basically they give you a lot of things. They are a huge supporter cost because their support cost is actually equal to their base support cost. Like everything else, their support cost goes up the more actions you've taken, but their base support cost is already going to see. You'll notice I haven't played an action yet. Its base support cost is equal to the number of planets I have in my empire, which is 2, plus the number of planets I have my culture on that I don't own. So you'll notice I have one little happy face up under the regent title, and that's around the planet right there. And so that means that it's going to cost me 3 at a base to play culture. So culture can get very expensive, but it's basically a win condition. So you can spread to nearby planets, and what it does is it gives you you get votes during this council phase, which we'll see in a bit, equal to the number of planets you both control plus influence, plus have culture on, sorry. And it also just gives you a number of other bonuses, such as points. For every place you have culture, you get points every council phase, which happens every like 7 turns or 8 turns. I still can't reinforce that fleet. This is me calculating that out. So I realized I sort of I was wondering if I cared about leveling up, and at the end of the day, the first level up for Kel-Azaan just doesn't matter a huge amount. The second level matters a lot. So this is a great, basically when you level up, you get a couple of options of buff. So you get a couple of options of buff, which I'll show in a minute. Before that, let me talk about espionage. You can use this to defend your planets against other players' espionage by playing it on your own planets. You can also play it on other planets, and we'll give you a couple options of plots. So, plots basically do one of a couple of things. It says what they do there, and you can only have one of each plot active. They also have a number of turns till they resolve, which is shown in the bottom right. So I decide to play Black Market to improve my income for a bit. So here are my first 3 options. I think every faction has similar options at levels like 2 and 4. But maybe just the same ones. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Militarist is the one I favor for these guys because I want more munitions to build more fleets, and I also want more army strength. This helps defend my planets from invasion because your army strength, the health of your planets is like split between the army strength of your planets is determined by your army strength, and it's divided amongst your planets. But as I said before, your army strength divided by 10 is how many less ships you have to spend to take planets. So a really good early goal, in my opinion, if you want to expand aggressively, especially as Kel-Azaan, is to get to 20, which is much easier when you're getting like the plus 15%. Okay, so I'm thinking, do I want to risk it? Probably not. It's like a 50-50. So I want to reinforce to 4 ships. I can just barely afford to build that building there. That gives me more support. And mostly I just don't want to waste a construction. Well, as much as I'd love to save those build slots for a populous planet-specific building that's better, you're really restrained by edicts. And so the good edicts like construction, you want to play them every single time you get them. Construction is one of the big ones for that. Command, I have nothing to play on. I have no more fleets. A lot of times I will build a fleet when I draw command, especially because I have that mining, that tech that lets them mine. So now it's sort of a pseudo way to build more buildings for income. Problem is I don't have much munitions, so I really can't, and I don't have much money. In fact, I have 1 credit to my name, so I really can't afford to be doing that yet, but you'll see me do it later. All right, so now I've played the Explore Edict a couple times, and it lets you resolve little question marks you see around planets. And basically, I have now found a unique resource, which is this FTL refining. And what it does is when you play it, it lets all your fleets move for free. Here I only move 1 fleet, so it doesn't really save me anything. There was really no need to play it, but it's super useful if you're going to move like 2 or 3 or even more fleets in a turn. Then you play FTL refining and you move them all for the cost of 1. So I actually realized I've made a mistake here because one of the techs available to me is Hyperlane Breach, which gives me a support back whenever I move. So what I want to do is I've actually decided I'm going to undo that, research Hyperlane Breach, then do my move and get a refund of 1 support. So it's a small min-maxing thing, but definitely consider when you do research, have I done any actions that would benefit from that tech? And if so, just undo and reorder. You should also be pretty conservative about clicking the end turn button in the demo, because right now, when you undo, if you already clicked end turn, it basically still counts as your turn having ended. You can edit some of your things, but you might get interrupted by other players ending turn. So that's how the demo works, at least. I don't know if that's something that will change or if it's because they need to communicate to the server. I'm not sure. So I'm debating whether I want to push forward and fight more, but let's see. But I guess I decide that there's not much purpose in doing so yet. I'm seeing one of my enemies expand out towards me. So, and now I've explained most of the basic mechanics, so after this next council, which is going to happen at the end of the turn, at which point I'll explain a little more about how points are scored and the importance of council phase. That's me checking on the other player's text. If you click that little beaker under people's names, you can see what tech they have. So once I explain council, though, that's basically the whole game. So I think I decide I'm going to install Puppet Ruler to take that planet, so I don't have to waste time and ships taking it. But on the plus side, when you install a Puppet Ruler over a place with neutral ships, the neutral ships don't leave, which is pretty nice, because I actually want to kill those neutral ships to gain XP. I think a lot of players are overly aggressive with Kel-Azaan, so that's my unique edict. I do have Bloodlust now because I've had a fight, and basically what it does is it increases their base strength by 1. When you look at a fleet, if you'll notice me zoom over, I'll talk about fleet stats really quick. I was checking if I could diplomacy with the other player's fleet, but I have to wait for him to take the planet. I need to see his planet, not just his fleet. So I've zoomed over. Okay, so armored troop carriers are really nice early game for taking because they require 1 less ship to invade, so it's like having 10 extra army strength for invasion. But I like getting to 20 army strength so the destroyers can do that anyways. But so if you look at this, the strength there is going to get multiplied by the number of ships in the fleet. The defense is doing the same. That's why it says 25 and 30, is because it's multiplying by 4, and I guess maybe doing some rounding. I'm not sure why I'm at 30. I don't know why it's sort of like rounding and giving me plus 1 strength and plus 2 defense. But anyways, basically your strength is roughly your strength listed there times some number, and it's because of Bloodlust. Bloodlust is giving me plus 1% to strength and defense, I believe. So I didn't know it affected defense, but it appears to. So I'm getting plus 4%, and then it's doing some rounding. So basically, your strength is your strength times number of ships in the fleet. Same with the defense, which determines like health. And then the next stat is how many you can reinforce at a time and repair when you idle. And then the last stat is plating, which is basically determines your percentage chance to be injured instead of destroyed when a ship is damaged in a fight. And so the higher your plating, the less likely your ships are to get destroyed, the more likely they are to get just damaged when you take enough damage to lose a ship. Whew, okay, so that's stats, and what training does is it permanently increases just the strength of the fleet. It doesn't affect the shielding. Okay, so now we're in council phase. So this is when people score most of their points. So you score them for titles. One title that's always there is controlling the Nexus Throne World, which is a planet in the middle that people are encouraged to fight over because it gives you 12 points every 8 turns. The other thing you'll see we got points for is culture. So me and Chinawar have both played culture. I have 2 culture on other planets, so I get 2 points during the council phase. You'll notice that I have 5 points though. That's because every time your leader levels up, you get 3 points, but it gets progressively harder to level up as the game goes on, so there's only so much you can do about that. Alright, so the next thing is voting power. You have voting power equal to the number of planets you have plus the number of planets you have culture on. I only own 2 planets still, even though I've fought fleets over other ones. I didn't take the planets, so I only have 4 votes. You can vote on 2 things. You can vote on 1 council title and 1 new resolution. However, you can split your votes between them. So I have 4 votes to split between title and resolution. So the titles are additional ways to earn points. And basically, at the next council phase, it'll see who won that objective, and then all the people who are tied for first in that objective get 12 points, and then it stays in the pool of objectives, and the council phase after that, you can get 10 points for scoring it. Then it progressively goes down from there. So I'm looking at these, and I just don't feel confident in winning any of them, to be honest. Certainly not learned. That looks pretty bad. It's the amount of science my systems are producing, but I don't have any buildings that do that. One planet type that lets you build science on it is advanced, and I literally don't see an advanced planet marked in green except for Nexus. So that's not great. So I really don't want learned. I'm trying to decide. I was looking for, what other planets are around me. And honestly, I just don't feel great about any of them. I don't remember where I put my votes, actually. Let's see in a second. Okay, so I tried to vote for having presence in the highest number of star systems. I'm pretty high up in the ranking for this. Ixodar is really good at making money, so I figure if we vote for industrialists, they will just eventually outstrip me. And expansive, though, I find players tend to forget about this one. And because my ships can gain that command I got to earn me money, I don't mind just making a bunch of small fleets and sending them to nothing systems to mine for me, essentially. So I tried to vote for that, but I failed. Chinawar votes for something else, and I have basically no chance of catching up on that, I don't feel, in the short term. So Expanse, though I am above a couple of planets, so I'm not doing as bad as it looks. You'll also notice that in the next council phase, things that got voted for stick around with the votes from the previous council phase. And no one voted for a new resolution, so when those tie, none of them come into effect. So none of those passes is going to be relevant this round. All right, so what do I decide to research here? I believe I decided to research cultural exchange, and that's because I don't have a way to generate science from buildings. As I said, I don't have an advanced planet, and I don't have any specialized buildings that are giving me science. So I decided to buy cultural exchange because I am currently playing culture a fair bit, and even a couple of science from this tech would make it worth it. So I've decided I don't have the other advanced planet yet, so I'm going to have to use my build to just gain support, which isn't the end of the world, but not ideal. So I will probably build a city here. And yep, I did. Now I'm going to start taking these planets that I'm above to open up build slots. Particularly the rich planet. every planet you have reduces your support income by 1 because you have to like manage it. That's sort of a tax, so that's one of the reasons I'm not taking these planets immediately. I don't need additional slots for I don't need additional build slots for populous planets because I still have a populous planet on Bursu, and I'm going to do most of my building in the near future on that rich planet. So I think I decide to wait a little bit. I am very close to my next level up though, and I'm eagerly awaiting that. So I was tempted to fight that other raider fleet to immediately level, but I decided I would just wait for my capital ship fleet because replacing those ships would be a pain. So in this next research, I see that there's an opportunity to increase munitions and army strength based on the number of places in my empire. And that's going to be really valuable for me because during my first level up, I got a buff to my munitions and army strength, so that tech is even better for me. But also, I just want to build a ton of ships. Okay, so now I have 3 options. All of these are fine, but I have personally found that Blood Legion is currently extremely strong if you know how, if you're going to be able to build up Bloodlust safely. So I have stacked 5. This is another reason I don't play Rally. Like, Rally costs me 3 Bloodlusts for almost nothing. I'll talk about it more later. But Blood Legion, what it does is it gives me a unique building that costs me, still have to play construction to build it, but it costs me 1 Bloodlust, and it gives me 4 army strength and a support income, which is a huge amount. Like, it's basically, instead of me paying 8 to get 1 support income, I pay 1 bloodlust, so 1 bloodlust is now being exchanged for 8 material, and since Kel-Azaan's economy is not very good, this is very, very helpful. And in addition to that, I am now getting 4 army strength for free on top of that support income. It also has this additional ability that doesn't usually matter as much, which is that if you own a planet with an enemy's culture and you're at war with them, it gives you -1 support income. If you have Blood Legion there, it cancels that negative. So sometimes it's even giving you essentially 2 support income. Most of the time, though, I use it just because it gives me a little bit of army strength, and it's saving me 8 material, though it is costing me a Bloodlust, so take that for what you will. That's some of the downside of it. Also, yeah. So construction. I'm now deciding, do I want to play a Legion Barracks on my... I decide to play Legion Barracks to get me to 20 army strength so that I can use the destroyer to take this planet for free. That's another reason I waited, is so I wouldn't lose any destroyers. And then my armored carrier is going to get into orbit of that other planet pretty soon. So now I'm considering switching to mining drones and sending this fleet off into the middle of nowhere to mine. However, there's 4 ships in the fleet, so it's a little bit of a waste. When you build new fleets, they come in with 2 ships, so I think I decide to build a destroyer here. Yep, and then I command that to get mining drones. And I decided this is more efficient. To waste 4 ships that way kind of is unfortunate because they're taking up munitions, if nothing else. Of course, I don't play Rally because I think Rally's bad. Okay, so my goal is to get Nexus before this the next council, which you'll see in the top left corner, is 5 turns away. Conqueror is feeling sort of out of reach, even though I'm getting to -2. Even if I take Nexus and nobody else takes anything else, I'm still -1 to the leader, so I just don't see it as happening. I'm looking for something to culture, because my support income's not that good, but I'm being pretty efficient. There's been quite a few turns where I only take like 2 actions, and I haven't been playing the politics edict very much. I've been prioritizing culture over that. So been doing pretty okay on that, and I still don't have a huge number of planets, so it's not completely crippling to play culture. Also, Legion Barracks will eventually give me a pretty good support income. So the other thing I love about Legion Barracks, you can play it anywhere. So there's some planets, there's industrial planets marked in gray that I don't have any of yet, and I am not a huge fan. There's some good buildings there, especially for tech, but a lot of times I have another way to get tech, and so then I just build Legion Barracks. Or at least I don't want to build that building like 3 times, I just want to build 1 or 2 of them, and then I fill the rest in with Legion Barracks. Okay, so I'm running out of build slots. No, I'm not. Umasaro has plenty, so we can skip forward a little bit. Alright, so I've got my mining drone. You'll see I have a huge income of 21. I will build up quite a surplus, but then once I have a good income there, I start to build up munitions, and then I can blaze through my income pretty fast. So I'm building a new armored troop carrier and putting the command to take planets for free so that it can go take the planets I cultured previously. When you take a planet that you had normally, you can't build on it or receive its income immediately. When you take a planet that has your culture on it, you get the small benefit of being able to build there immediately and getting its income immediately. Checking on the tech of other people to see who I might want to steal tech from. So one of the things you can do with espionage on an enemy planet is steal technology. Now, there was this tech, cold fusion reactor, that I very badly want. I'm also fine with basically all the other options. But yeah, getting cold fusion reactor early would be really nice because, of course, I'm spamming construction. It also gives you a new building that's super powerful, and I just want tons of munitions. I very highly value cold fusion reactor as Kel-Azaan. Okay, so I noticed the Ix is building up on their planets over there, and I imagine everybody's sort of gunning for Nexus right now. I used training to give +1 base strength, which once I reinforce to 6 fleets will basically be +6. It does cost you a bloodlust, so you have to sort of balance if it's even worth it sometimes, but anyways, I think I decided not to play diplomacy. I'm expecting to have to fight these people in 2 seconds over Nexus. And if you start forming pacts, no. I think I see Turtuan doesn't have a strong enough fleet next to me to really challenge Nexus, is my expectation. So I offer a trade where we both benefit from a science increasing tech. And I also want more munitions so I can keep building up my fleets to, take Nexus, support Nexus. So yeah, I decided that even though Turtuan's adjacent to Nexus, I don't expect them to be a threat. So in this case, since I think I can take Nexus before Turtuan, the pact actually benefits me. Now if they want to declare war on me, they need to break the pact. And when you break a pact, you lose succession points, which is really bad. You lose 3 succession points, and over time, the cost of breaking the pact goes down steadily until it hits 0. I don't know how many turns exactly that takes, but it takes quite some time. So it gives me some breathing room of, if I can beat Ix, then in a war over Nexus, then Turtuan's not going to be able to easily come in and fight me because we're going to have a pact they would have to break. Okay, so exploring, it just gets rid of one of those little question mark icons and gives me some bonus, so try to play that when I can. Alright. So, like I said, I've given up on Conqueror. I think Regent is also out of hand. At this point, I've accepted that he's going to win this initial fight over Nexus. And I can move in now and kill him, but he will win the fight and be able to take Nexus, and then he will score it during Council. He'll score the Regent title before I'm able to take the planet, unfortunately. But that's okay. I still want Nexus going into next round. And I don't want to give him time to build a starbase there and reinforce it. So I just decided to fight right now, even though I know I'm not going to get points for it for this round. Okay. So you'll also notice from the pact that I get succession points. Let's see if I can get back to where the pact is formed. I didn't see it. So let's see. Oh, I missed it again. So just to look at the pact, so on my next turn, when I play a pact, his next turn he gets to look at it, and the turn after that, I see if he accepted. So you also notice we get 3 succession points for forming a pact. Every time you form a pact with someone, you get 3 points, but if you form another pact with that same player at any point, you only get 2, and then 1, and then 0, to keep you from farming too many points off the same person. Okay, so I have a massive advantage here. Now I wasn't at war with them, but since he's going to capture the planet on his turn, my game hasn't registered because of simultaneous turns. If he takes the planet and I don't declare war, it will kick me out because it now thinks I'm invading. I want to fight him even if he takes it. So I've declared war on him in advance, which does cost support as if it's an action essentially. Now, let's see. What else do I decide to do this turn? So I'm winning Nexus, and then the rest is going to be, I think I'm considering whether I want to steal tech or defend my planets from, I didn't realize that I still have my old steel technology up. So I was thinking of stealing tech, realized that's still going. So I just think I decided to defend one of my planets with it instead. Probably the one nearest to Nexus, because sometimes people will play something called coup on it, which makes it revolt and go neutral, which I don't want. So yeah, I played the espionage defensively. And now I start building, I start taking the planet. And do I do anything else? Probably not. Right, there's very little turn timer left, so I just decided to let it go. Okay, so I get 3 points from culture. I think I decided not to take that, oh, sorry, fly. Okay, so what do I decide to vote? Oh, have the highest military might is a pretty easy vote for me. I don't expect to win, but you'll notice these accumulated votes things. That means people voted for them last round, which means they'll stick around till the next phase with those votes from the previous phase. So I decided not to take that planet over there that I was thinking of taking. And the reason was because it has culture around it, and having the culture there gives me a point. And council was about to happen, so taking it would basically just lose me a point. So you're definitely going to want to consider, if you're about to take a planet with your culture, is council about to happen, and do I really need this planet for the build slots? And the answer was I did not need it immediately. So none of these are super helpful for me. The support income is okay from personal replicators. Repulsor saves you a little bit of money, but what I really decide as the most valuable is actually increasing sensor range, which increases your view range by 1, so I could see threats earlier in advance and scout better. And also, it gives me a command that's similar to the mining command, that it lets me use these small fleets for highly advantageous things, which is if you idle at the end of a turn, you basically explore on that planet. So you can sit it somewhere with like 3 explore nodes and just explore over the course of 3 turns, which is very, very strong. So I think I'm deciding between that and personal replicators. I probably pick personal replicators first because I have 6 open science, so I'll be able to get both as I play my next 2. But I don't have extra fleets to do that passive exploring yet. And personal replicators will increase my income, so doing that one first just made sense in this situation because I couldn't immediately use the other one, and this, even though I think it's weaker overall in the current situation, at least I'm going to get something from it in the short term. Alright, so I am just spamming Legion Barracks because I love them. I love having a ton of army strength. Especially if I have to eventually fight Turtuan. They get a huge bonus to army strength, and they usually don't take very many planets, so their planets become very, very hard to take in the late game. Alright, so let's see where we are in the game. So we are a little bit less than halfway through. At this point, I'm in a really comfortable position. I have the best fleet on Nexus for certain. I have a very solid support income of 14. A lot of players never reach 14, honestly. I definitely value having a really high support income. I like to spam a lot of actions, be able to move a lot of fleets. So I stole the defense platform tech, so I don't need to build new fleets there yet, but I do need to defend that from a potential buildup from X. So what I'm going to try and do is basically convince X that this war is not worth it and that maybe I could even push into his territory. And we've already verbally agreed, basically, that, so most of us were in a voice chat while we played this game, and me and Mosar Trilar, the X player, have already talked about basically let's not keep fighting, which is sort of advantageous to both of us. I don't really care about taking his planet and his like inlet to the Nexus. And I had stronger fleets when I made that sort of agreement with him and have started building defense platforms. So he would probably lose a fight over Nexus, and he might even lose in the long term, plus fighting gives me XP. So we sort of like, we're in a little bit of parity, and neither of us wanted, when you get into a fight with someone who's close to you in strength, you can basically just knock each other out of the game a lot of times, because you just grind each other's resources to nothing. So we're just waiting for a diplomacy edict to come up to end our war. And so even though I'm Kel-Azaan, like, when you play an aggressive faction, that doesn't mean you should just fight all the time. You should leverage your advantage in fighting to get favorable deals, to pressure people to do certain things that you want, or to make like quick pushes to win an objective. You'll notice this time around I'm actually competitive for Conqueror. So Conqueror scored last round, but I didn't get it, so the person who got it is now out of the running, and now that I've taken some more, which was Chinuar, or Malsangaroth, is the player's name. So Malsang already got it, so he's out of the running, and now I'm competing and tied with quite a few other players. But I have the now I am taking those planets that had my culture because I need them for something. I need them for an objective. Like when you're taking a planet, it's going to lose you one support. And especially if it has a culture, your culture on it, it's going to lose you points. So you got to ask yourself, like, usually the one vote you get from a planet isn't worth it. If you have your culture, then you already get the vote. So what are you getting it for? Do you need the build slots on that planet type? Or do you need it for some objective? Or do you really need to deny another player from taking it and set up your borders? And so if all the answers to those are no, a lot of times it's better just to have a culture there or something. Okay, so here I'm sort of debating what I should do. Galactic Forum is extremely strong to get 2 support and a vote. It's expensive, it costs 18 materials, but I'm rich, so I don't really care. The only thing is, like, I'm already okay on supporters because they're Legion barracks. The thing is, what I look at to make my final decision here is that I only have 3 bloodlust left. So and while those buildings are good, they only give you 1 support, like most buildings. They give you an additional thing in army strength, but like it's a limit to how much you can ramp up a support just using that. So I decide, because of my low bloodlust and because I have open slots on populous planets, that's probably going to be useful eventually. What I do end up going with first, though, is nanite augmentation. That's because this gives me this building, which is buildable on industrial worlds, and it lets me build a I don't have any rich planets left to get 2 income from, and it gives me a way to get 2 income. It also gives me a way to get 2 science and an income from advanced worlds, and I have an open slot on Nexus. So I decide those 2 buildings combined, since I have an open slot on Nexus and 3 open slots on industrial worlds, that is going to be a better choice in the short term because I am good on support. But I think I will eventually pick up the Galactic Forum for some boost to my support income, if I'm not mistaken. Certainly I valued it. So I keep building Legion barracks. I still have Bloodlust, so it's not a problem. Okay, I'm now building... So I'm in a very tricky situation here on Nexus. I've built a carrier, or a ranged fleet, next to Nexus on Enzahinus. And the reason I built that there is because ranged fleets can attack and participate in 1 round of combat in any adjacent system. See a lot of good fighting tech there, so I think I decided to steal from him. So the thing is, though, when I build that ranged fleet there, ranged fleets have very low plating. So if somebody sends in like cheap destroyers to kill them and they trade with you, they really won that fight because economically they came out ahead. Destroyers reinforce faster, they cost less, and their plating is higher, so more of their ships are likely to get injured instead of destroyed outright. So raiders are your main issue when you have ranged fleets, so you're probably going to need to build capital ships there to defend them in a lot of cases, especially this one where I know I border an enemy. So I finally can make a peace agreement. I think... But then he told... the reason I didn't send it is because he told me that he had just sent one this turn as well, so that I didn't need to send one. So, see, now his peace agreement shows up and I accept. Great. So, I think I'm going to probably... Well, I want that ranged fleet to be able to shoot into Nexus without taking up room in it, and also to defend Enzahinus from invasion. That's a great command, by the way. The one that nerfs the target of the shots is super good. Okay, so what are my options? I decide to construct because I'm running low on science anyways, so... See, an interesting thing about like politicking for something is you shouldn't politic for something that you can't use again immediately after. So let's say that I politicked for research and then I drew a research next turn. Then I just paid extra to basically research 1 turn earlier, and I missed out on my chance to actually research. Here, I have many construction slots, so me constructing an extra time is not going to stop me from playing the normal construction card. But if I researched, I wouldn't be able to play the normal research edict. So definitely when you play a politics edict, make sure you either absolutely need to be doing that now, like maybe you need the tech immediately for some reason to score an objective or something, or you should only really do it if like you just need so many of that command for the next few turns, because you might just draw another copy or two of it. And then it's really annoying when you just spent extra support to do it one turn earlier when you didn't need to. Okay, me just making more diplomacy deals, scoring points off diplomacy deals is great. Also, I'm in control of Nexus, which is the main objective of the game, so other people with deals with me will need to break them to fight me, which I'm always happy with. Now, Turtuan usually can remove culture pretty easily because their unique edict allows them to remove culture, but this player didn't remove my culture on his one planet for a very long time. Sometimes it's worth probing somebody and seeing, is this a player who like strongly values removing my culture? While I control Regent, I'm behind on points, so it looks like he's not prioritizing getting rid of my culture. So I decide to keep culturing his planets, because some players, you'll culture their planets and it just goes away immediately. You can play culture on one of your planets that someone else has cultured to remove it. And so some people are more aggressive about removing your culture than others. And since this is, game with real people, part of the game is assessing how do various players react to, various stimulus, essentially, right? Like, I'm going to test the waters on this. How do they react? Okay, they reacted like very aggressively to a small thing. I'm going to not poke the bear unless I know I can destroy them. Or, hey, they didn't bother removing my culture. Let me just put more culture on their planets then. That's free points. Okay. So yeah, I mean, a lot of this middle game is still just economic stuff, but I'm making a lot of choices that are very, very impactful later in the game. The thing is, while I don't get in many wars this game as Kel, I do build up very strong fleets. Um, because if I didn't have these strong fleets, I would get in more wars, right? I'm a little annoyed that I'm not fighting at least a little bit because I have no bloodlust, but you shouldn't let your lack of bloodlust force you into wars that are going to cost even if I gained 8 bloodlust from fighting 4 battles with somebody else. If that person has nearly my strength on fleets, the amount of resources I'm going to lose to get that 8 bloodlust isn't even close to worth it. And people smell blood in the water and get in real life bloodlust and will start attacking you when you get weakened in another fight, especially if you control Nexus. So what I want to do is present such a strong front on Nexus and not start fights to make people feel like, okay, if they attack me, we're going to have at minimum mutual destruction, and then another person is going to come in and take Nexus. And at that point, it's a really unappealing prospect for the X player to attack me, right? If they attack me, they either have to go for Nexus, which is the strongest, and get shot by my carrier fleets, or he's going to have to go in to the system with my ranged fleet. But the system with my ranged fleet has a capital ship and a ranged ship, and he has raiders and capital ships. The capital ships are disadvantaged and do half damage to the ranged ships, and his raiders do half damage to the capital ship. So that's a really unappealing prospect because he is essentially disadvantaged in that fight, and also the planet he's attacking has very little. So he's not even getting Nexus out of it. That would just be a lead up to Nexus, so he would need another fleet to go in and take Nexus. So yeah, here I think I decided to go for shielding, which will just make me all my fleets way tankier and make it even less appealing to attack me. All right, so I'm finally, after that council phase, I did win. I did win Conqueror, which is great because I've been expanding very aggressively, and especially when I'm ahead by 2, people sometimes just give up trying to catch you. So it can be nice to get ahead. And here I'm using my accumulated votes from the last council and throwing all 10 of my votes to what I think is just a done deal. I don't think anyone can beat me on that because I can build more Legion barracks even if they try. I am super lucky in that somebody else threw 10 votes into giving everybody a non-aggression pact with everybody. That's huge for me because to break it, people would have to pay 3 points to break their non-aggression pact with me. And then if you break a non-aggression pact with someone, you can't immediately declare war. It creates a 1-turn buffer. So now people would have to lose an extra 3 points to fight me and give me a 1-turn heads up as to their plan. This sort of secured the game for me. I don't even know who voted for that, actually. So Turtuan voted for that, which is really interesting. I really don't know. I guess potentially. So I know I've played with Malsang many times, and he can be a very aggressive player. So it makes me think that Malsang may have been attacking Turtuan, but honestly, that's sort of like the beginning of the end. That started to make me feel very secure in this game because now it's even harder for people to take Nexus because they have to lose points to fight a losing battle that then somebody else might sweep in and take the rewards for. So nobody wants to fight me over it. They would have to coordinate pretty closely, right? Like make a deal like, hey, you soften them with range fire. I'll sack my fleets. You let me have Nexus for a turn. Then I'll let you have Nexus. Then I'll leave, and you can have Nexus. Like these sorts of deals can really help relieve stalemates. But it appears that my opponents were not making these sorts of deals, and just ended up in like a standoff with me being the one in the best location for that standoff. Notice I'm not even trying to get learned. I don't feel I need it, and I feel honestly, fighting for it is too hard. And if I get it, I'm just going to have an even bigger target on my back. I notice he has cold fusion reactors at this point, so I offer him a level 3 tech. I feel like this player is... I think I talked to this player, and he was a little bit on the newer side. So this is to some... but all the other players knew he was fairly new. So I'm sort of taking advantage of the newer player in some sense, in that I am in a super favorable position. Not only am I in first by a couple points, I'm going to get Regent in all likelihood, and I'm definitely going to get Mighty. So I'm really like potentially another, almost at 68 points here. This is going to give me another 2 points, which almost puts me at 70, and he's at 9 points. I could trade him a level 5 tech at this point, and it probably would still be in my favor, because Cold Fusion Reactor, right now munitions are a... You always want to look at, like, when you're playing these games, what are my problems? Right now, my problem is I don't have enough science and I don't have enough munitions. Those are both nearly maxed out. I'm trying to solve both of those at the same time, and I don't even know if he has a supporter issue. And I gave him a tech that, despite being level 3, Turtuan is famous for turtling and not taking many planets. So he's probably only getting like +2 support income from that tech. So he's... And level 3 techs, like one thing you have to think about when you're getting traded a high level tech is this even worth the tech it's taking up? And it's potentially not even worth 3 tech points for him to have that tech. So it sort of looked better than it was, where it's like I'm giving a level 3 for a level 2, and it's a mutually beneficial agreement. But I am way ahead from him, and so he could have gotten a much more beneficial agreement from me. And frankly, he probably shouldn't even give me those things because it just makes me too likely to win. So hopefully that's some interesting event. I still appreciate the deal though. Thank you, Church One player. Um, but yeah, in general, I don't think the deal was very favorable to you. Sorry about that. I was a bit sneaky there. Apologies. Okay, so just building up near Nexus. I cannot tell. I guess I can tell you what Rally does. Rally lets you recruit a fleet for half material cost at the cost of 3 Bloodlust. But like, I'm saving 8 material per Legion barracks that I build with Bloodlust. I also have no Bloodlust, and so Legion barracks is like, I mean, a fleet costs like 20 material usually to build, unless it's like a Titan, which I think costs 50. And so you're saving like 10 material for 3 Bloodlust. Why? You also save some support, though. I will say that. Because it doesn't cost any support, it counts as a free action. So you save some supporters, but like some supporters and 10 material for 3 Bloodlust, not worth it. So you can have, I believe, like 1 project per planet, and Cold Fusion Reactors also gives me this construction option, which it takes... I don't know if it... Each planet has a limited amount to build new projects. Oh, I see. So yeah, this is just like a special building that does not take up a project slot, which is cool, and it just buffs the planet. So even though it's expensive, it costs 24 to give like a minor buff to all my resources. That's worth it to me because I'm rich and because I'm out of build slots. So okay, notice that these empty regions, they have 3 explore pips, and so I'm sending small destroyer fleets to just keep ramping advantage. Like, you don't need to start wars with your free time. If I thought there was a player who was definitely going to attack me in the short term, like, first of all, I would let them break their now that we have non-aggression pacts, I'm going to wait for a player to break their non-aggression pact with me. Until then, I'm not going to bother invading them. There are definitely cases where if we hadn't been forced into non-aggression pacts, then I may have attacked as soon as I had any notable advantage. I think I was thinking of offering them something, but I'm actually scared of Ix as one of my main competitors, and I couldn't think of a clever deal in the short time frame before the turn timer ran out, so I decided to just do nothing. What I mean by clever deal is something like Church One, where it's like, I know the Ix player, and he's usually would not give the leading player he's worried about almost any deal. And so I would need to give him a deal that looks really good on paper, but is like maybe even to beneficial to me, and like honestly, I'm not even sure such a deal exists. So I just decided to pass because I was afraid by offering him a deal he might accept, I might actually offer him a deal that's too good. Let's see. So I think now I finally go for quantum communication. Yep, that makes sense. And now I'm going to start building it to continue to ramp my support advantage. Now, 19 support when there's a cap of 50. Note, it seems like it just seems like maybe excessive, but I own a lot of planets and I'm spreading my culture. And one of the main things you can do with completely absurd amounts of support is spread culture. Also, you'll notice like I'm taking so many, because I have so many fleets, these fleet actions are very expensive. I didn't go for the level up reward that reduces fleet action costs by 1. I went for the one that lets me draw an extra edict because I want to draw more edicts, play more cultures, construct more buildings. But to supplement that and to make up for the fact that I didn't take that, I really like, as Kel, taking the one that reduces the cost of ordering fleets because I usually have a lot of fleets. But with the amount of support income I have and knowing galactic form was a research option for me, I decided it wasn't worth it. So somebody had a, what's it called, a plot on Nexus that forces a ship to retreat. I don't know why they did that, because we have non-aggression pacts, so they can't get me with a surprise war, but it was a cool idea. So that guy just sort of ended up in orbit there for no reason. Since we have a non-aggression pact, though, we can inhabit the same space. I'm trying to decide where to send it. It's a fairly weak fleet, honestly. It was just on Nexus because I was too starved of supporters to actually have time to move it. So I'm checking on all my idling fleets to make sure they're still exploring productively. I think I decide to send it over there just to have all 3 fleet types in the secondary spot and build stronger fleets over Nexus, which is the one I really want to defend. So Marauders are a unique fleet that I got as a level up reward. Every faction has a unique fleet that they can get as a level up reward. The 3 level up rewards for Kel are at that level. Or 1 reduces the cost of building fleets material in terms of material based on your extra munitions. I have tons of material and no extra munitions, so it's useless for me. But it can be incredibly strong if you ramp munitions extremely hard, and if you're in costly wars that keep making you lose your fleets. I need to increase how strong my fleets are in a burst engagement. I have plenty of money and I'm full on ships. I don't need to replace ships, and I don't need money. So that's not the one I went with this game, though I do think it is extremely strong. What's the other one? I've never taken the other one. Let's go back and figure that out. Because I just leveled up recently. Okay, here it is. Oh, Capitals and Raiders get +1. That is so weak. +1 strength. There's so many techs that give them both like +2 strength. It's just too weak. Like the unique ship you get, its stats are so buffed compared to a destroyer that it's just completely incomprehensible to me taking that. It probably needs a buff. Anyways. Like, getting a new ship as strong as a Marauder. So, the only reason I considered not taking Marauder this game is because Marauders get a double bonus from Bloodlust, but I have 0 Bloodlust. I end up taking it because the base stats of that ship are honestly good enough that it's almost equivalent to like a level 5, level 6 tech. If you look in nanotech, where a lot of the new ship models are, it's almost like a level 5 tech worth. That +1 to Raiders and capital ships is like a half a level 2 tech. It's like a level 2 tech that gives them both +2 or something. So it's like not even a level 1 tech worthy. So it's pretty hard to understand, even when you don't get the Bloodlust bonus, picking it over Marauders, because look at those base stats. let's go back to me building it. So I just, like I said, I decided to send it here because I don't expect that to be the most important planet. Yeah. Oh my god, Destroyer's sitting at 5 and 7. The 7 being, they start at 5 and 5 for strength and shields, but I have a tech that's giving +2 shields. 8 and 9 as base stats compared to 5 and 5. It's a huge difference. And they will, if I do get into fights, they will eventually be much stronger because of their double bloodlust benefit. They're a little overpriced, right? Because they're double the cost, and I'm not getting the bloodlust bonus, but I'm rich, so I don't care. Shield capacitors to increase their tankiness. Marauder's special thing of getting +15% strength when they move is nice. However, I'm really probably going to end up using them defensively because I'm just fighting over Nexus right now. Okay, non-aggression pact keeps us from fighting. I believe that guy has Turtuan offers me an amazing deal. They offer me an even trade on techs for helping my military. They want 5 credits, which is almost nothing. You can, even though I have 0 credits, notice I can accept, and I think it will put me negative on the next turn. If I don't gain goods, but I think I do by playing trade or something. Okay, so most of the game is honestly kind of over at this point. It will be very hard for them to push into me at this point. My economy is too strong, my fleets are too strong. So let's skip to, I'm just going to keep reinforcing. My goal right now is, like, again, what is my weakest link? My weakest link is I need to keep being able to build ships, or my money is useless, and I need to keep being able to research tech to make my ships stronger. So I need to ramp those resources however I can. As I play a lot of espionages defensively when I'm in a winning position like this. Coups on planets with starbases are very annoying because the starbases and defense platforms will fight against your ships. So you can lose the planet and a bunch of your ships in orbit when you have both defense platforms and starbases. So I always need to keep those defended by espionage. Yeah, I definitely recommend anything near a border with a starbase, or honestly just anything with a starbase, you should probably defensively espionage. So I've discovered a neutral creature with one of my passive explorers that's going to kill those fleets. That's fine. You can either tame those by spending research and then they join you, or you can kill them for points. I want the points. I'm very strong. I don't have extra science to go around. They're not worth the science for me. So yeah, I'm starting to build marauders in my home system, and I'm going to build those up until they can comfortably kill the Crystallian entity for 3 points. Because Chinoir is still doing pretty well. But Chinoir has scored Conqueror, and I think they've scored Learned. And they're definitely not going to get Mighty or Regent, so even though they're ahead of me by a couple points, I feel like I'm in a much stronger position overall. Right. So I picked this just to, like, keep moving my tech forward, but in culture, to get points. Right now, I just need points. Like, I'm nearly as strong as I can get. I decided to remove Ix culture from Turtuan's planets because Turtuan haven't been removing my culture as aggressively, I feel. Like, other people remove my culture from their planets and get in a culture war with me. But they don't seem to, so that's fine. Okay, so next council. Predictably, I win Regent. I've already won Conqueror. Learned is just never going to happen, except maybe once both Vor and Ix have scored it. So let me go back for a sec. I got 4 points from Culture, which I'm pretty happy about. And of course, I had the highest army value, but Chinoir has a really good chance of scoring that next round, so I have to be careful. Turtuan should have a better chance of that, but they seem not to. I think, like I said, they might be a bit of a newer player, and there's just so much going on in this game. It can be hard to focus on both the objectives and your economy and military. But you really have to balance the two. Like, the most important thing is to get points. However, you also have to build up your economy enough that once you're the leader, you can actually stay the leader and fight off aggressors. Because if you're close to winning, people will try to stomp you out, right? So yeah, even though this isn't, like, maybe the most exciting game in terms of, like, how much combat is going on, I do think it's very instructive. If anything, it might be a more useful game to most viewers with respect to Kel, because I think one of the critical flaws people mistakes people make when playing Kel that make them lose a lot is just being overly aggressive. When you can just, if you're winning, just project power and try not to like slip and get attacked by multiple players at once, because that can be what kills you. If I didn't have these non-aggression packs, I would probably try to create a buffer zone between me and Nexus, where like I push a little further than Nexus. So there's a very useful mechanic called flanking, which is if you get attacked from two different star lanes. So if I got attacked from this black hole over here and here, or if Turtwin attacked me from these two planets to Nexus, I would lose 25% of my strength. I'm not sure if I lose 25% of my defense, but you get a huge debuff for being flanked. And so defending a position like Nexus can actually sometimes be harder than just attacking. But to want to attack like that, you'd have to have a pretty significant advantage, both economically and militarily. You need the military advantage to win the fights, and the economic advantage to replace them and not become weak afterwards. So yeah. And Kel does not natively have a strong economy. The thing that super strengthens their economy is if you ditch Marauders. So like, usually my goal is to get Marauders, because I think Marauders are very powerful. But to make the choice to take Marauders, I basically need to have the economy to back that up, and that is not always the case. I'm a little bit worried about this fight. So black holes kill 25% of the things coming in when you move into them. So there's a chance I would lose so many ships that I wouldn't actually be able to kill the Crystallian entity, despite the estimate bar telling me that I'm supposed to win that fight. Okay, this is me just... So you can build housing plots, which takes up a construction and a bunch of resources, which is a bit wasteful, but I would rather build housing slots and then build buildings, which is like half efficiency, than start a war just to get a planet or two. So I'm building there because A, Turtwin has been super passive towards me, and they're like the only ones who can even somewhat feasibly reach this. It is in this sort of dead end that is 3 away from Turtwin's closest planet, which is kind of crazy. And honestly, unless they have 2 or 3 sensor range, they don't even... If they had 2 sensor range, they had a ship here once. So then they would have seen this planet. But unless they have 3 sensor range, they can't currently see that I'm stacking munitions here. So that's a big advantage of sensor range, and it's one of the reasons I'm building here is that, like, if people know you have a planet with, like, 20 or 30 munitions on it, they might just take that planet instead of bothering to kill your fleets, because if you exceed your munitions, your ships just start to die passively. Oops. Let's get back to where we were. My bad. Okay, this is about right. Yep. Sorry about that. Anyways, me discovering a coup. So every turn there's a 15% chance that you discover an enemy plot on your planet. So even if you defend your planets with espionage defense, the plots may still happen. You have to discover it before you can counter it. So word of warning is just to expect that you might just get couped even though you have defense there. Okay, so I built up more ships before going in, as you can see, to secure that kill, unless I'm supremely unlucky and lose a crap ton of ships. Continuing to build up my range fleet, because you can only have 3 fleets per system. So I'm not sure when I build a 3rd fleet in Nexus, but that's probably coming soon, and at that point the only thing that can help is the range fleet. I've leveled up a final time, at which point I had a choice of Supreme Edict, I think, so it probably happens like here. Let me check it out. So these are 2 things, one of 2 basically cards that get added to your deck. I personally like... Invasion Fleet is fun because it can just pop things in at unpredicted spots and just take people's planets. And it can be very strong. I personally prefer Assault because it lets me just like how... Especially for its top ability of all your fleets repair based on their thing is like you have a fight that you win but you take a bunch of injuries, you play Assault, suddenly you're back to normal. I think that's very nice, and it's cheap. That's the other reason I like it. I don't love either of them, but it only costs 2 Bloodlusts, so if you have a lot of injuries around the map, it can be worth playing. The other one, 5 Bloodlusts, more valuable if you didn't go for Marauders. If you went for Marauders, do you really want to spend 5 Bloodlust on that? The surprise factor is cool, though. Of just dropping ships that your opponent has to deal with. on them. Especially good if your opponent has a super large empire that they're having trouble keeping a handle on. Okay. That's just a warning that another player played their Supreme Edict. I discovered another neutral entity, which kicks my ships out, but then I'm going to get to farm it for points, which I'm always happy about. Okay, so he's going off to explore things. I think I go for advanced fighters here. So torpedo frigates are another new type. They're like a different type of ranged fleet. Honestly, I don't feel like they're very good. I feel like I would rather have carriers most of the time because their stats. So dealing plus 10% damage per armor of the target is definitely nice and makes them maybe a little bit better at their base than carriers. But their unique tactic, letting them just shoot star bases, is like pretty underwhelming. And the carrier buff of 3 strength, just at that point, that's better than the 10% buff per shielding a lot of the time. And I already have a carrier fleet. I would have to build a new fleet for the torpedo frigates. So I decide the carrier is more valuable. It also gave me access to this building, fighter base, which lets me give strength both on this planet and adjacent ones, which means I can defend Nexus without even taking up a build slot on it. And even if someone takes Nexus, I'll get to keep that building. So I like that quite a bit. Alright. Moving on. So I think the enemies start to realize, I mean, Ix clearly knows I'm about to win. I think everyone is gearing up to fight me. Yes, so they have broken their non-aggression pact with me. But they won't be able to attack me until this turn, so now I know they're gonna come in and attack me. I still only have 2 fleets in orbit, which is not ideal. I probably should have built more fleets in orbit of Nexus earlier, I guess, but such is life. So what do I decide to do here? The thing is, even if I lose Nexus, I'm not convinced that it matters. Because I'm winning Authoritarian, which is worth 12 points. I have Culture. I believe I have at least a couple of Culture around the map. I see 2 right now, so that's 2 more points. And I did just get the points from that. This is me checking, did I already score the points from it? Because if so, I'm really good. But basically, I just need a couple more points. I don't need a whole region title. What I probably should have done here is build a galactic monument. So a galactic monument can be built on any planet for like a cost of like 75. You can only build one at once, and it takes 3 turns to complete. If I had built a galactic monument now, it would be done in time for game end, and that probably would have won me a game. So I would call this a mistake. I should be spending my money to build a galactic monument here. There's another crystal entity, so I think I'm going to try and go kill that. So this is interesting. Ix comes in, and actually, he brought in a small weak fleet instead of that other capital ship fleet I'm seeing because he wanted the flanking bonus. And because of me shooting in with my ranged fleet and debuffing his capital ship, I am winning this fight. And further, I decide to screen my Marauder with my capital ship. That means his 2 core, most of his damage is coming from, the way that I decide to fight this is most of his damage is coming from these raiders. But they have very low defense. They have tons of attack but very low defense. So these guys do half damage to my capital ship. So this fight is definitely massively helped by those 2 things. The first is the ranged attack in, and the second is defending. Because this defense now is going to make it so all of his ships first have to attack this guy. These guys do half damage to them, so it's not even as valuable as it should be. And then I order this one to target this Corvette and kill them as quickly as possible. So if he doesn't order defense, if he orders this cap ship to defend here, then this targeting won't help me and I'll be forced to attack this guy. So that would be unfortunate, but if he doesn't order that, then I'm going to get a massive advantage by just killing off his highest damage dealer immediately, and then can probably clean up. Okay. What do I decide to do here? I've accepted the potential loss of Nexus, but I would like to tie up other ships. So Tertuan's now declared war on me. They're also coming in with a flanking bonus, unsurprising. Okay, so of course the one that defended lost all its ships, which is not surprising. But Marauders are basically untouched, which is fantastic. Okay, my guy who discovered lost a ship. So I have to fight this battle first, but I'm hoping to kill the crystalline entity after I kill these guys in the way. So I'm losing the Nexus fight now. It's not very surprising. It's a whole other set of fleets, and he has flanking bonus. So let's see if we can see what the flanking debuff says. Can I look at my ships, please? Probably not. Disadvantage of having a recording. But yeah, this is obviously much more detailed than I'm usually able to offer. Okay, so he's sending some ships in to take a planet, another planet. It doesn't really matter that much. I just mostly want to avoid losing more stuff. If I build Marauders with shield capacitors, if he tries to move to my homeworld, he's going to get slammed. Okay, so I'm expecting to lose that, but that's okay. I don't have any tech to research anymore. Me just building more housing plots. Politics for construction to build in the housing plot. Weapons, more weapons. Nice. Because when fleets are damaged, they still take up munitions. So since I didn't lose many capital ships in that last fight. Okay, so interestingly, what's happened here is Red has also jumped into the party. And I believe this actually stops Tertuan from taking the planet. I'm not totally certain what happened here, but at the end of the day, he just isn't able to take Nexus. So, so I do end up winning by holding Nexus. But as you'll see, because, and actually that isn't, but that doesn't matter because I had the 12 points from I have the 12 points from the other objective, plus 3 from culture. So this was actually going to be enough anyways. It was going to put me at 101. So anyways, well, like I said, it's not the most exciting back and forth in a million combats. I hope it was sort of instructive on how there's actually a lot to do in this game and a lot to think about, even when on its surface things are peaceful. You know, peace is just a prelude to war in this game, right? So you want to spend your time building up to that. Unfortunately, I accidentally quit out of the game before I can analyze in detail how everybody scored their points because I meant to minimize and I clicked main menu, and that ends the game. But yeah, hopefully that was instructive. And if you weren't familiar with the game in the first place, then hopefully the beginning portion gave you an idea of how things work, and the later portion gave you an idea of sort of how deep the strategy is. Even though you only have a couple options in your edicts every turn, there's a lot of choices to be made in like fleet maneuvers, in what the politics for, in which planets are worth taking, in who to start war with, and how to go about objectives, or you should give up on them. But yeah, if you have any other questions about the game or comments, feel free to leave them under this video and I'll try to reply as soon as I can. But thanks for watching, and if you don't get a chance to play, haven't gotten a chance to play this last week, and you're seeing it, then today's what? June the 25th. If it's still June the 25th, I definitely try to recommend getting a game or two in just before the demo is gone. If not, join us on the Discord. There's a Stellaris Nexus Discord, and feel free to hang out with us there and keep an eye out on the full release. There's also or on any future demo period. There's also a Steam page, so you can wishlist it on Steam, and just keep an eye on when the next demo is and when the game will eventually release. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.